everyone, I'm Sarah and welcome back to my crochet channel. So this week is Christmas in July, and so what we're going to do is we're going to make a Santa and Christmas elf pillow. This is one square that I've already completed. And the elf square is made exactly like the Santa square. We just use different colors. And the way it works is on one side, we'll have Santa Claus's belly. And on the other side, we'll have a Christmas elf belly. And we're going to be putting this together in 2 steps. Today is step 1, and we're going to do the 2 squares that form the pillow. The pillow is going to end up measuring about 14 by 14 inches, and that includes the trim that we're going to put on the side. The squares themselves, the 2 that we're going to make, the Santa and the Christmas elf, these squares measure about 12 by 12 inches. All right, and then we get that extra 2 inches by the trim because we're going to put on a shell stitch trim around the edge when we put them together. All right, so today we're going to show you how to crochet the Santa and elf squares, and then in step 2 or part 2, I'm going to show you how to stitch the 2 squares together, stuff it, and add a fun shell stitch to the edge. And it's a lot to do, and so that's why we're going to do it in 2 steps. Now the complete pattern is on my blog, and as always, you can find that blog link with lots of pictures down in the notes underneath this video. To make your Santa and elf squares, you're going to need quite a bit of yarn. Now this is stitched in a bulky number 5 yarn, and I stitched this in red and black and gold. And these are Charisma from Michaels. The black is I Love This Chunky from Hobby Lobby. So it's okay to mix and match your yarns as long as they're the same fiber. These are all acrylic yarns. Now today I'm going to be making the elf using a medium weight number 4 yarn, but I'm going to hold 2 strands together. The Santa belly is already made, and I'm going to show you how to make the elf. And so I'm going to be using this bright spring green, holding 2 strands together. If you don't have a bulky number 5, you can stitch the whole thing up with holding 2 strands together. Okay? So you're going to need approximately 5 ounces of the red, 2 ounces of the black, a ½ ounce of the gold for the Santa. And then you're going to need 5 ounces of green, 2 ounces of the gold, because we'll be making the belt in the gold, a ½ ounce, which is 0.5, of the red, because we're going to make the buckle in red on the elf. Now I chose to go with traditional colors. You can use any colors that you want. You can make your elf a little girl and make it pink, or use a variegated. And then the last color that you're going to need is white. And this again, I chose to go with I Love This Chunky because it's really soft and fluffy. And the white is what we're going to be sewing the front and the back pillow together with, and then adding a nice big shell stitch around the edge in white. That way it kind of represents Santa's beard, but also snow, because snow comes in the winter. And I think this is going to be just lovely, and I'm really excited to get it all put together. The other thing you're going to need is some stuffing. Now I chose to just purchase a 12 by 12 inch pillow form because the pillow itself is going to be 12 by 12 inches, but it becomes 14 by 14 inches when we add that big shell stitch around the edge. All right. Now, if you don't want to go and purchase a 12 by 12 inch pillow form, you can use polyester fiber fill or whatever stuffing that you prefer in your pillow. Okay. Now, we're going to be stitching today with a K-hook. The K-hook is a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. Now, usually when you work with a bulky number 5, you use a little bit bigger of a hook. But I want our stitches to stay close and tight so that we get a nice tight pillow. And also, if you're using regular polyfill, you don't want that polyfill to show through the stitches. So we're using that K-hook, which is a 6.5 millimeter crochet hook. And then, of course, you're going to need a needle, and make sure that the eye on it is big enough to get that chunky yarn through. And then, of course, you need your scissors. Now, if you've chosen to use 2 strands of medium weight number 4 yarn for your project, that's totally fine. And what I do is I pull from one skein, and I pull 1 strand from the center and 1 from the outside. And then I just hold them together. And so, just to repeat, for this project, you can use 1 strand of bulky number 5 or 2 strands of medium weight number 4. All right, let's get started. We're going to begin with our slip knot. And we're going to chain 26 chains. Now, remember to loosen up your tension just a little on this beginning chain because you don't want the end of your pillow to pucker up. We want it to be a little bit looser. All right, so I'm going to loosely chain 26 chains. I've chained my 26 chains. We're going to begin by stitching a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. We'll go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through both loops. Now in the next chain, we're going to stitch a double crochet. So yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, go through the first 2, yarn over, and go through the second 2. And so what we're going to do is we're going to alternate single crochet and double crochet across. So single crochet in the next, and double crochet in the next. Oops, there we go. And when you're working with 2 strands, you have to be very careful not to drop one of those strands of yarn. Single crochet, double crochet, alternate all the way across. Single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet. Dropped a strand, we don't want to do that. There we go. And so we're going to alternate single crochet, double crochet all the way across our chain. So I continue to stitch single crochet, double crochet, alternating every other stitch all the way across. And you're going to have 25 stitches. We ended on a single crochet, so we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3, and turn our work. This chain 3 counts is our first double crochet. Now we're going to go to the next stitch and stitch a single crochet. And we're going to again alternate double crochet and single crochet across. The main thing with this particular stitch and getting it to look right is you need to make sure that you stitch your double crochets in the single crochet stitches and stitch your single crochet in the double crochet. I'm going to continue working across, stitching my double crochet in the single crochet stitches and a single crochet in the double crochet stitches. So we're basically doing the same thing, alternating our single crochets and double crochets, working all the way across, and it will come out with this beautiful texture stitch. I repeated across, single crochet, double crochet, single crochet, double crochet, all the way across. And again, remember your single crochet stitches are stitched in double crochets, and your double crochet stitches are stitched in single crochets. Our last stitch on row 2 was a double crochet, so we're going to only chain 1. When we chain 1, the chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So we'll begin stitching in the very first double crochet and stitch a single crochet. Then we'll stitch a double crochet in the next stitch. And again, we're going to alternate single crochets and double crochets all the way across, making sure again that our single crochets are stitched in a double crochet and our double crochets are stitched in a single crochet. Alternating single crochet, double crochet all the way across. I completed row 3, alternating double crochets and single crochets all the way across, and our last stitch on row 3 is a single crochet, so we're going to chain 3. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to repeat row 2 and row 3. We'll be stitching 7 more rows, alternating every other row, row 2, row 3, row 2, row 3. So we have a total of 10 rows of the green. I repeated those 7 additional rows, alternating every other row, and we ended up on a row 2. So we have a single crochet at the end. I've cut my yarn, and I'm using this gold, which is a bulky number 5 yarn. You can continue on with 2 strands of a gold or yellow if you want to. I just want to go ahead and use this one. All right, so we'll bring in our gold, and this is the color for our belt. Our last stitch was a single crochet, so we're going to chain 3 and turn and continue to repeat what we've been doing. Our chain 3 counts as our first stitch, so I'll single crochet in the next stitch and repeat double crochet, single crochet all the way across like we've been doing with our green. And again, I'll just repeat this all the way across, single double, single double, single double, all the way across for our belt. I repeated that across. We ended on a double crochet, so I'm going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to single crochet in that first stitch because our chain 1 doesn't count as a stitch, then double crochet in the next, and then we're going to repeat what we've been doing, alternating our single crochets and our double crochets, and again making sure our single crochet is stitched in a double crochet and our double crochet is stitched in a single crochet, and then we'll work that all the way across just like we did in our green section. I repeated row 3. We ended with a double crochet, so I chained 1. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to continue to repeat row 2 and row 3 for 3 more rows with our gold yarn alternating every other row for 3 more rows in order to form the belt for our elf. I repeated those additional rows, and so now I have the width needed and the length needed for my belt for my elf pillow. All right, so I'm going to cut my yellow yarn. We're done with that. And I'm going to bring back in my green. And so what you're going to do is you're going to repeat what we did down here and stitch 10 rows with the green, alternating row 2 and row 3 for 10 more rows. I've completed those 10 rows on the top, so now we have a 12 by 12 square. We're going to go ahead and cut our yarn, and we're going to weave in all our ends on here, on the bottom, on the sides, and get it all tidied up. And then I'm going to show you how to make the buckle, and then we'll be done with step 1. All right, let's make our buckle. And again, the buckle is made the same for the Santa as it is for the elf. We're just making them in different colors. So we're going to begin with our slip knot. And we're going to chain 29 chains. 1, 2, 3. So I've chained my 29 chains. We're going to go into the second chain from the hook and stitch a half double crochet. Now we're going to stitch 5 more. Yarn over, go in, pull up a loop, yarn over, and go through all 3. So I should have 6 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We started in the second chain from the hook and stitched 1, then we stitched 5 more. Now we're going to place 3 half double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to stitch 6 half double crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And 3 half double crochets in the next chain. 1, 2, 3. And you can see we're forming a square. All right, so we're going to repeat this 2 more times. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 3 in the next. 1, 2, and 3, and then repeat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 3 half double crochets in this last chain. 1, 2, and 3. So now we have a square for the buckle. All right, so we're going to join to that first half double crochet with a slip stitch. And it looks a little wonky. Don't worry, we'll fix that. And then we'll cut our yarn. We'll go in the back, pull that loop to the back, and tie off to the back. And we've cut ourselves a long piece of yarn because we're going to use that to sew that onto our elf. Now we want to fix this right here, that little gap. So we'll put that tail of yarn where we started on our needle, and we'll go right in the bottom of that stitch. Close that up, and then I like to make another stitch in the back just to make sure that's going to stay closed. And we'll clip that one off. All right, so now we have a cute red buckle that we need to put on our elf. And again, the Santa buckle is made the same, it's just made in gold yarn instead of red. Center your buckle in the middle of the elf's belt. And now what we're going to do is we're going to stitch it on. And the way that I do that is I go down under, and then I just stitch across. This way I'm catching the edges and the center, and it's going to stay in place. If you're worried that it's going to move around, you can pin it in place. I just don't. I just stitch it, moving it if I need to. And this will take a few minutes because it is slower, because we want to make sure we're getting it in the right spots. And you'll see that I am going to run out of yarn. I'll have to add some more yarn on my needle. I just don't like to have a large amount on there that I have to pull and push around. I'm going to turn it this way so I can make sure that that's lined up. Let me show you what it looks like on the inside. It just looks like whip stitches. And that's pretty much what we're doing. I like to do it this way because it's going to help it stay in place, and it's going to catch the edge here and the edge here. And so I'll just continue stitching around, and when I run out of yarn, I'll just add more on. And if you can, when you're stitching around, you want to try to grab those stitches, but if you can, it works nice if you can get through some of the fibers also, instead of just the stitches. You don't want to go in the holes. You want to make sure that you're going through stitches. You don't want to lose those stitches that are holding the buckle in place. And so I'll just continue stitching this on, making sure it's where it needs to be, working all the way back around to here. So here is the completed elf square, and here is the completed Santa square. And you need to make sure that you make a Santa side and an elf side. The other thing that you can do is do 2 Santas and 2 elves and make 2 pillows. I just really loved this idea of having a Santa on one side and the elf on the other. All right, now that's the end of step or part 1. And we're going to complete part 2 on Wednesday, our next video. I am totally loving this pillow, by the way. I just know you will too.